My hands are so soft. Cruise was a 10-year journey.
Do you think Hollywood does a good job of depicting Italians? Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Hardcore Italians podcast. We got Gino Cafarelli on the pod today. Gino, thanks for coming on, man. We've been talking a long time. It's good to see you in person and
It's
get
finally
together.
great to meet you, Pops, your paisans, Mike.
Yeah, the whole crew, man.
I'm here at Hardcore Italians headquarters.
Yeah, yeah, the studio, man.
I
So
literally just got off the plane a couple hours ago.
love it, man. So yeah, thanks for coming by. We've been
Absolutely.
talking a long
Thanks for
time. It's
having
good to meet in person. So since it's the first time actually sitting down with you, I want to get the backstory, man. How you grew up, your neighborhood, being Italian, how it influenced you. Do you mind giving me the story from the beginning?
Absolutely. So my parents came to Queens from a small little town in Italy in 1968. It was very Greek Italian neighborhood called Astoria, Queens. They had their first apartment. I was born a year after, '69, and grew up in Queens most of my life. They moved to bought their first home in Flushing, Queens, home of the Mets. So Flushing, Whitestone, Bayside area in Queens. So
And what region are they? Was it
they're
college?
from the southern region of Italy. It's a region called Basilicata, which is
Oh,
in the
cool.
south, which is right on the heel.
Oh, nice.
The province of Potenza, and a small little town called Pietre Pertosa is the name of the town they came from, which is very rare because a lot of Italians that come from Italy, they'll say my mother's Barese or my father's Napolitan or my father's Sicilian, my mother, is Calabrese. It's like a mix, but my parents came from the same town,
Oh, wow.
from the same region in Italy. So, and a lot of the paisans, and my aunts and uncles came from the same town as well. So it was pretty authentic, which rarely happens these days.
Yeah, 100%. It's authentic as it gets, man. So tell me, how'd you get into acting and filmmaking? Was there like a moment that you saw something and wanted to get into it, or did it just naturally happen?
I was just very fascinated by, at the time, like, TV was like, just like a little kid watching, Friday night shows. Like, I could just off the cuff, off the top of my head, shows like Dukes of Hazzard, Incredible Hulk back in the day, just before your time. Even in the 70s when I was a kid, watching shows like Batman. And obviously TV was a big format when it came to like showing trailers to movies. So that would introduce me to, movies that were being released in the movie theaters. You would have some movies that would play on TV, but it was like almost like a special of the week, or the movie was out, and then it finally came to TV. I don't know. I was just like blown away by just, seeing people react the way they did in an audience, and especially in the movie theater.
Yeah.
I think the first movie I went to see with my parents, they didn't speak a lick of English. They took me to see First Blood.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think that was the first movie, and then I think a little while after that, or maybe was it before, I went to see Porky's. Then when I went to see Porky's because I saw a commercial on TV, it was a rated R movie. I shouldn't have been there. I was 10 years old, but
Yeah.
it's just a reaction that nothing will beat that crowd experience in the audience.
Yeah.
That's why I don't think cinema will never go away as far as. And I still believe that, I know a lot of these shows, or movies they stream through a lot of these streamers, but there's nothing like experience like a movie in a movie theater with an audience.
Yeah, 100%. And that's your first movie, you made it, right? Was it Chooch? Or can you tell me how that? I was looking it up. I think it said Chooch was the first movie. I was like, this is Gino, man.
So, so my partners at the time, back in 1998, 99, we did a Christmas song. It happens to be Christmas season now. We did a song called The 12 Days of Guido Christmas.
Okay.
And it was back then when we had CDs. So I would be mailing out all these CDs. And it attracted a movie producer. And the three of us got together with this movie producer. And fast forward, we started talking about ideas. And we all collaborated on this movie called Chooch. I think that was like 2002.
Oh, wow.
I was like, wow, it's almost like over 20 years ago. But it was because of like musical comedy that we did on the radio,
Oh,
a
cool.
record deal that we got, that we were introduced to this producer, and we collaborated. Again, it was one of the very first things that that I did as an actor. like most of my scenes in that movie, it was improv too. It was
Oh,
not
really?
scripted. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
interesting because I feel like it's hard to break into the film industry. Like a lot of people
Very
want to do it and they can't, you know? So just was curious on your start. And I want to talk about Cruise. You were talking a little bit about it before you got on, but that movie's awesome, man. It's like an Italian American movie as far as they come. You know what I mean? Like the whole movie. One of the questions I want to ask is what gets because the girl's Jewish and she kind of comes to the neighborhood and wants almost like an Italian American experience. What are a few of the things that were like a must have when making that movie to get the girl, you know, to feel that?
Well, again, that movie was a 10-year process. Originally, like it started from a short story that I had written as a pilot. I was looking to present it as a possible like series. I started envisioning it as almost kind of like a poor man's Entourage. Because in Entourage, you get to see Vince as the movie star. He's got his friends.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I kind of grew up. But we, grew up in a middle-class Italian-American neighborhood in Queens, and we had our close-knit like friends and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And a night out would be like putting gas in your car, going out cruising, listening to music and stuff like that. And I mean, a goal as a guy back then, it was always kind of like meeting girls, and that was
Yeah.
I say it in the actual presentation, the teaser that I shot, that was our social media back then. Was basically just getting in your car, cruising around, and just meeting all types of people from all walks of life that would come in from like all the 5 boroughs or Long Island. So that was really I think the only like real big technology back then was before cell phones even existed, were beepers.
Yeah. Yeah, I was laughing when he's like, hit me on the beeper later or whatever.
Like, you want my beeper number and stuff like that. I mean, and a lot of those lines in that movie came from a real place too.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like some of those pickup lines. There were some of the pickup lines. Not all the pickup lines made it into the movie, but
Yeah.
I mean, you could ask girls in any city, like there was always a pickup line.
Yeah.
But back then there was a lot of innocence to it. It was just the way it was. It was just like hang out with your friends,
Mm-hmm.
listen to great music. It was that movie was a summer love letter to that culture.
Yeah. What are some of the elements that like brought the Italian American culture in the film that you were going for to kind of capture that vibe? You know what I mean?
Well, for technical purposes, camera-wise, like back then, a lot of girls and guys, they would have, I don't know if they did it here in Chicago, but back then they would have bows
Okay.
in the middle of the, and they were all color. They were the colors of the Italian flag. It was green, white, and red, and it was like a bow, like a bow, when it would have the strings coming down, and that would be the prop. And a lot of these bows would be in green, white, and red.
Yeah.
Then you would get other bows, whether white or red. But in the movie, because we couldn't actually have the bow because for camera purposes, it would be blocking the actor and stuff.
Oh, okay.
We used Italian boxing gloves.
Oh, yeah.
So you'll see in the movie.
I
that
love it.
got-
It's in
yeah.
every shot. I love
Yeah.
it. Even when
So-
they're racing, they got the flag. It was cool. You know?
Right, exactly. And back then, when kids would race, they would do that. Like Whitestone, Queens, Flushing predominantly was Italian, Italian American. Like people immigrated from Italy and came to Whitestone, Astoria, Flushing, Bayside. It was an Italian neighborhood. Like I went to an all-boy high school. We had a mix of races, but I grew up with everyone had a vowel at the end of their last name.
Yeah.
The guys-
Yeah, exactly.
Guys and girls
Italian
had a vowel
neighborhood.
and stuff.
100%. Man, one of my favorite scenes in the movie too, you're in it, is when he goes, "What do you have a taste for?" And she says Italian. And then he drives right by the Italian restaurant, and then he's at Mom's house for dinner. That part was awesome.
Well, I mean, we kept it authentic because, back then when I was, having my shenanigans in the neighborhood, hanging out with friends and stuff, I would sometimes bring a girl that I either met the same night, if it was, within time frame of like dinner time, and be like, "Hey, you want to grab a bite?" And they'd be like, "Oh, sure, let's go grab my." So no, you want real authentic Italian food? And I would just, and my, my parents. So that came from like a real place. So when
I love
walked
that.
in,
That's
they would
awesome.
kinda stop. That's happened a couple of times in my kitchen. My mother and father would be like, "Who's this? Who's this person?"
Yeah.
"Oh, this is my friend so and so. I just met her."
But there's always enough food in an
Yeah,
Italian house, man.
Exactly. Well, that's one thing about Italians. you'll never starve when you're in an Italian household for sure.
1000%. And just to the Italian culture you incorporate, and I mean in your work, just by like in the films what you do, but also with the actors you work with and things like that. Like you met some incredible people and work with some incredible people, man. Like De Niro, Pesci, Pacino. Like, what's it like working with those guys behind the scenes? And
I gotta tell you, as a kid, I mean, I looked up to, as an as a, wanting to be an actor. I mean, the greats like Dustin Hoffman and Al Pacino, De Niro. As a kid, it seemed so far away. Like you're just so like mesmerized by their work. And,
yeah,
like, there were definitely a lot of these actors were definitely an influence on me wanting to be an actor. I was always the dreamer, and I was, it seems so far away, but also so close.
yeah,
So I never listened to the naysayers of like, oh, you can't do it, or what are you crazy? And I was just talking to Mike in the car, and a lot of people always like, oh, you're nuts, you're crazy. What do you want to do? You want to act? Or you want to make movies? So I kind of went the, I went the traditional route. I went to school. I went to an all-boy high school, Catholic. I went to a grammar school, also Catholic. I went to a university, St. John's University. I got my degree, started working in corporate America, but all I really wanted to do was create and get into film. So I couldn't, not that I couldn't, my parents weren't going to be like, oh yeah, we'll write you a check and go to NYU Film School.
yeah,
That wasn't, so it came a lot later in life. So I went through, what they say, conforming and doing it, and kind of like, oh yeah, that guy's doing it, well, I guess I got to do it. But after a while I realized that I didn't have to, I just kind of followed my path of what I was really meant to do. But to circle back to answer that question, so when I would watch these actors like Pesci and De Niro and Pacino and some of these actors I looked up to, and I actually wound up being in scenes with them later on in life.
yeah,
It's kind of like that pinch yourself moment for a
yeah,
Because when I worked on The Irishman, though I didn't have any lines in the movie, I played a real person from the 70s. I played the mayor of Philadelphia. And the casting director told my agent, he's like, well, he's got no lines, he's going to work 5 days. I go, I don't care what it is. I'm like, thousands of actors wanted to be in that film.
yeah,
So when they told me that you were working 5 days and the scene was with, all these legends in the room, I was like, I would obviously do it for free. I didn't do it for free, but I
Yeah.
would have done it for free. The 5 days became 2 weeks. So
Really?
there I am sitting and working, and just watching them also, do their thing. And as a little kid, whether I was in the movie theater or at home watching them on TV, and now I'm sitting here on the same stage with them. It's amazing. It's like there's a circle. You circle back to life.
yeah,
It's a circle back. It's like, wow. Like, so as much as people might have told me back then, it was like impossible or you're crazy. I mean, if you believe it in your heart, everything else will come.
yeah, 1000%.
Yeah.
And what's it like working on a set with them, or like something that has an insane budget like The Irishman versus Cruise, or some maybe films that don't have like as big of a budget?
Well, I mean, my work ethic is the same. So whether it's I don't look anything whether micro or or big, small. A lot of people are relying on you to deliver. There's a lot of time invested. There's a lot of money invested. I just worked on a show. I could say it's a Netflix show. I can't say the name of the show, but I did a guest star on a show recently. I did one episode, and I mean, it's crazy because every time I work on something, you feel the pressure because you got like a ton of people like waiting, like not waiting on you, but watching you.
Yeah.
And you have to be on.
Yeah.
Like you have to be on because there's a lot of money and a lot of time invested. So
Yeah, true.
they're hiring you for a reason. So if they put you through like this, insane process of like through a casting process, they want to make sure that you're the right person for the role. That, excuse my language, not fuck it up. Like,
Yeah.
Not,
Yeah.
so there's a lot
That's
of pressure.
true.
But I approach it, whether it's on an indie level or a studio level, TV or film, the same way. I try to just deliver, my best at 200% all the time.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of pressure because you got a lot of people just.
The pressure's just.
Yeah, you don't realize it until you're put in that spot that when they call action and you got to be on.
Yeah, that's true. Especially, it's probably different if De Niro's looking at you
Yeah.
versus, you know.
And you know what? And some of these bigger, bigger like A-list celebrity stars, they'll tell you the same thing. Like even up until like present day when they're working on something, there's always that state of euphoria, like kind of like when you're working on something new, and it like your nerves are always going.
Yeah.
You could be the best at what you do. You could be on your A game, but you're still gonna have that little,
So these guys all get nervous too, even.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, everybody gets nervous.
If they say they don't, they're lying. Unless again, maybe there's a few that are calm, cool, and collective all the time.
Yeah.
But I've heard from some of the greats in the TV and film world, actors. They'll tell you, and I've seen them in interviews. They're like, no, like you still, even on auditions, like you got actors that still audition for big movies. That actors and actresses that when they go in for an audition, they're still nervous, they're still jittery.
Yeah.
And they have like a repertoire of like work that they've done for years, and they still feel those nerves going.
Yeah, true. You got probably 500 cameras on you and stuff like that, so I can only imagine. So what about behind the scenes stuff? Like, is there anything that, crazy happened behind the scenes ever? Or how are these guys behind the scenes too? Are they the same as on camera? I feel like you're probably somewhat the same on camera because you're always, Italian American. Like,
some of them, I don't want to mention like names and call out anybody, but
no
some
problem.
people they'll play it like they're the nicest on camera. Like you'll see, oh, like they seem like so sweet, but I've met a handful of people that were really not nice.
Okay.
And I've met a handful of people that were really nice. It really depends on like how you go about it. Like some people have egos, man. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like that's kind of
That's true.
a lot of people get into the industry, entertainment industry for ego purposes.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's
I
a good
always
point.
saw-
That's
I
a good
always-
point.
Yeah, I always saw it as like just being expressive and just who I am. I like taking something that doesn't exist and then
Yeah, you could be creative.
Like,
And like
again,
you said too, it's people's reactions. Like when you
Yeah.
when you explained why you got into it, it was based on people's reactions and
Yeah,
like
Cruise-
entertainment is an art,
Yeah, Cruise was a 10-year journey. Like,
Yeah.
So when I finally got it done, from everyone saying, "Oh, you'll never get that movie done,"
Mm-hmm.
because there were a lot of people, friends and family, be like, "Oh, people have been trying to make a movie about the neighborhood for like the longest time.
Yeah.
Who's to say you're gonna be the one to do it?" I'm going, I don't know. I feel like I was very passionate about it. So the one thing I do is persevere and I follow through.
Yeah.
Because you can have an idea and not follow through on the idea. 'Cause
Yeah.
there's a lot of good ideas, but the follow through is what really, and execution is what really
Yeah.
counts.
Still, 10 years like a lot of time compared to most movies? I feel like 10 years. Oh, really? Okay.
No, it was just I took baby steps. And when I lived in LA, I would talk to people and they would tell me, work, create and write or do what you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I even created with my producing partner and another partner, we did a short form series called Hit Your Mark,
Yeah.
it came from a real place.
Mhm.
I was a single dad, Italian American, grew up in Queens, lived in LA, went out to LA. So, like I had to be told to, write or, work on what you know. So I didn't get that
Okay.
back then, but I get it a lot more now.
Okay.
And it's more authentic.
Yeah.
When you write what you know, when it comes from a place of authenticity.
Yeah, 1,000%, man.
Yeah.
I agree. We try to do the same thing, like think about what our grandparents did, or you know what I mean? You got to be that way. So that's what I love, man. Especially like in Cruise, when you guys sitting at the table and just the words and phrases you guys are using and stuff. It's like I could see it,
I used like some of that lingo, like Catherine's character, who basically played my mother in the movie. She would go ando, and that was short for Antonio, and that was my father's name.
Okay.
So like
Yeah.
it came
Oh,
from a
wow.
real place, and we switched it up. Believe it or not, it was my mother who was more of the father character in real life. So I took the dad character
Yeah.
as if it was my mother, if that makes sense.
Okay. No, I get you.
Because my dad was more quiet at the dinner table.
Okay.
Like he would say a couple of words here and there.
Yeah.
But it was my mother that was more of the vocal one, with like, oh, you go out every night
Yeah.
and this. And that. So I took my mother's character and made it into his father.
Okay.
Which is basically, I played my father, but made it as my mother, as my dad, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So in the gang, were you supposed to be Gio? Is that supposed to be depicted on you, or more so one of the brothers?
I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that just the N is missing. It's like Gio versus Gino. They weren't going to use.
Yeah, true.
Gino, but
That's awesome,
I
man.
always tell people that that's more the Hollywood version of me.
Yeah, I getcha.
He was like 6 foot. I'm only 5'9" on a good day.
It's all right, man. I'm shorter than that, so I'll take it. But do you think Hollywood does a good job of depicting Italians?
I love that you asked that question. I mean, we could talk about this for like days and hours, and it could go on and on. I'm not happy. I mean, yes, I've played gangsters. Yes, there's that stereotype. Do casting directors, agents, managers, directors, do they sometimes try to, keep you in a box? Yeah, and I'm not saying that, it happens every day, but yes, it's very touchy when it comes to stuff like that, because we could play, we could play authentic dads. Again, circling back to the project Hit Your Mark,
Mm-hmm.
A studio or head of a TV studio or a film studio is not going to be like, oh, go play the average Joe.
Yeah,
the single
that's true.
dad
Mm-hmm.
who's striving to be an actor. So whether it's wanting to be a teacher or a lawyer or a doctor or whatever it is, single dad, pursuing his dream.
Mm-hmm.
Like that work that I did on Hit Your Mark is a metaphor for not just being an actor. Well, he's an actor. Pete's an actor in the show.
Yeah.
But it's really a metaphor for hitting your mark in life and whatever you do.
Yeah.
I would never, I don't want to say never, but if I didn't do that on my own, someone wasn't going to come along and say, hey, we got a great role. He's a single dad and he's going for his dream.
Yeah.
I get auditions for a lot of bad guys, delinquents or drug dealers or gangsters again.
Mm-hmm.
Every now and then a good audition will come along where it's like, oh, I like this, but you got another 1,000 other people that they're going to look at, so you could do the best you could. But sometimes sometimes it doesn't come down to talent, like your talent. It just comes down to a specific look, color of hair. I mean, I know you could, with like wigs today and makeup, you could change stuff, but
Yeah, true.
I don't scream I don't scream like if they were doing like The Odd Couple today, I wouldn't get casted as like Oscar Madison, let's say, as the sloppy roommate.
Yeah, I getcha. Okay.
Like so that's why I tend to try to create my own lane or my own work,
Mm-hmm.
and keep it authentic that way, because we
Yeah,
we can play more
that's
than
cool.
just that and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It would be cool to see more. I don't know, I feel like with some of the movies and shows though, like there's still like positive elements that are about Italians, but it's like you said, it always like kind of goes towards a gangster way and stuff. So
Yeah, well, the issue I have is that, a lot of people cry and say, well, like again, like maybe back in the day, like for example, like if they were casting Scarface today,
hmm
do you think Al Pacino would get that role? I don't think so.
yeah, probably not. Yeah.
Probably not, right?
Okay.
So, again, I'm not going to mention actors. There's a lot of actors out there that have played Italian.
hmm
that
Yeah.
are not Italian.
hmm
But if an Italian played a non-Italian in a TV show or a film today, they would get shit. They'd be like, how dare them? They're not Italian.
Yeah.
Again, I haven't had one. They asked, like, oh, he wasn't Italian, Spencer, in Cruise? Go, no, he wasn't Italian. Oh, he was great
Yeah.
because he's an actor.
Yeah.
That's why I became an actor,
Yeah.
so I could play other people.
Yeah, that's true.
So again, if there was casting Scarface today and there was an Al Pacino who was an Italian-American actor
Yeah.
auditioning for Scarface and he was playing Cuban, he wouldn't get it today.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
But
Okay.
today, again, I'm not going to mention shows and I'm not going to mention movies, but in today's culture, there's a lot of TV shows, and whether it's animated, non-animated, TV, film, there's a lot of actors that are playing Italian
Yeah.
that are not Italian. And there's other talented Italian American artists that can do that, that need the job,
Yeah.
that can deliver. Why? Because but the box office. Like, I don't believe in that anymore. Unless you're doing $100 million movie and you really need, a guy like Robert Downey Jr. to sell your movie.
Yeah.
I don't think. I believe in authenticity over everything.
Yeah.
And I understand it's a business and you have to sell your movie, but I'll give you a prime example. The Hangover.
Yeah.
When they made that movie, none of them were names.
Yeah. That's true.
Brady
Yeah,
Cooper
you're right.
Brady Cooper was in Wedding Crashers. Zach Galifianakis, I would see him in comedy clubs. He was a comedian.
Yeah.
Ed Helms, I think he was just starting the Office.
The
right?
Office. Yeah. Okay.
And the other guy I never heard of either.
Yeah.
Right. So they were all.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
unknowns. So they took a risk, and they were like, "Oh, Todd Phillips is an amazing director. He did Old School. He did a bunch of other movies that did well." He's like, "No, this is who I want to cast."
Yeah.
And I did the same thing on like a movie like Jersey Bread, where I was a casting director.
Yeah.
I didn't want to cast the same faces. I just want fresh new faces that have been doing it, that are professionals at what they do and are great at what they do and can use the job.
Yeah.
And so when you watch something, you're like, oh, I believe that, because a lot of stuff that I watch today, especially in the genre of the crime genre, a lot of it I don't believe it, because it doesn't jump off the TV or screen.
Yeah.
It doesn't connect with me, because I'm like, I really don't believe that.
Yeah. No, I get you. I always think about it because Andrew Schultz always plays an Italian character. Like, he played it in Feast of the Seven Fishes, that movie. And then there's a show that came out, Tires, and he plays an Italian. And they even call him I don't remember if they call him Dagos or Guidos or something. But I'm like, it's kind of crazy to.
I mean, you see what I'm saying? Like,
You know?
Again, and I don't want to sound, what's the word? I don't want to sound like a hypocrite, but I mean, this year will be 26 years. Me and my two partners from back in the day, Joey Balls, Joe, Carmenucci, and my nickname was Janoots. We were known as the How You Doing Boys. We basically did a song called 12 Days of Guido Christmas.
Yeah.
But in the song, we don't say Guido, but we call the song the 12 Days of Guido Christmas. We got so much flack back then.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Back then. But we kind of like were the pioneers of like that Guido thing, but we didn't like throw it in your face like Guido, Guido, Guido. But now it's okay for like non-Italian people to use
Yeah,
their own
that's what
Dago,
I'm saying, like
they can get away with it. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Oh,
like-
WAP. That's what it was in
Oh,
the
is that
show.
what it
They
was?
said
Yeah.
WAP.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, it was,
And no, yeah, it's it's like when a non-Italian. So that's what I'm saying. They're playing a
but I
non-Italian
think-
character.
Yeah, but I think that
Or they're
comedian,
playing
Shane
Italian.
Gillis, right? He's
Yeah.
in that show also.
Yeah.
He's got a bit where he says Italians are like the last.
I was gonna bring that up. Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah. Exactly. Then they're
No,
saying
I mean, he
WAP's
makes a
in
good
there.
point. I'm
Yeah.
not getting mad at Shane Gillis for saying that. I'm
Yeah.
actually applauding him for saying it. It's kind of true. It's like,
Yeah.
wait a second.
Yeah. I mean, it's smart to kind of realize it honestly, because it is true. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I believe that again, independent creators now, especially in the culture of being Italian, Italian American, Canadian Italian, whatever it may be, Australian Italian. If you're authentic and you stick to what you know, and it comes from a real place, and you believe in it, all
That's
that
how you
other
get the best
stuff,
work.
like, yeah, again, but the industry is always gonna, people, I know people gave The Sopranos a hard time.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
didn't want him in the Columbus Day Parade, and they didn't want him here, they didn't want him there. But it was, I mean, it came from a real place also.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
And the
true.
writing was good.
Yeah.
And it was really like, and we can go back to The Godfather. Like, was The Godfather really about gangsters and mobsters? No, that was the backstory, right?
Yeah. Exactly. That's what
You
I'm
know?
saying. There's always good elements in these movies. I feel
I
like.
just read a book, and I got to meet Mike called Mob Adjacent.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love about that story is about two brothers
Yeah.
that grew up around their dad who knew these guys. So,
Yeah.
again, there's authenticity to it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
exactly. It's
saying?
real.
Where
1000%.
it comes from a real place. Like, Cruz came from a real place I grew up in.
Yeah.
That's how I like to tell stories, from like a real place. Like, when people make it more caricature, cartoonish. I get a little bent out of I get a little bent out of shape when it comes
Yeah.
to stuff like that. It's not.
You're right. It's always a part of it. That's how I feel like too. Like, cause there's Italian Americans too who like are a little more out there and stuff. And I'm like, if that's who they really are in real life, like, do you? But sometimes I feel like people they turn on their camera or whatever and they put that on purposely because I know it gets attention. You know what I mean?
It gets
So-
attention. Like there's a lot of bad movies and bad shows within the Italian American culture that somebody from Boise, Idaho that sees it and be like, oh, that's how they really are.
Yeah.
But really not.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like, I have a queen's attitude or edge, but automatically they'll pull me into like the AO wait, yeah, oh, wait. Like, I mean, I never spoken like that. Ever.
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
yeah, we have a certain flair. There's a certain attitude. But I see it on social media, and you see it every day too. Like, it's someone who's even not Italian that tries to be Italian.
Yeah.
Or joke around about being Italian. They'll throw on a leather jacket, and they'll start using the common slang words.
Yeah.
And they're laughing at it. I mean, it's like, are you laughing at it, or are you laughing because it's funny, or are you laughing because it's ridiculous, or are you laughing because it's embarrassing? I mean, it could be
Yeah.
a mixture. It could be a mixture of things.
Yeah. That's a good point. It just scares me that, there's newer generations of Italians that are like getting on TikTok and watching some of the entertainment, and then like I just don't want anyone to think like that's what being Italian's about,
Let
When
me
they-
ask you a question.
Yeah.
Since you mentioned TikTok, what do you think's going to happen with TikTok? You said
Oh, with the
Yeah,
ban and
yeah.
everything.
Do you think a company's going to maybe Hardcore come in and sweep it up?
I wish. I don't know. I feel like people talk about buying it, like Kevin O'Leary and things like that. I mean, I don't think it'll get deleted, to be honest. I mean, I don't know. I could see it both ways. I could see like, I don't know, like Elon and Mark Zuckerberg and all that get like trying to, all of a sudden everyone loves like Trump now. You know what I mean? Like they're all getting behind him when they used to not.
Right.
I could
Yeah,
see
'cause
maybe them
Zuckerberg
playing
was
into like,
donated, right, and so did.
I don't know if Elon did, but I know.
I think Zuckerberg did, and Amazon, Bezos.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Bezos just
yeah.
like donated something now. So part of me's thinking like, I wonder if they're all trying to get on his side, so they ban it, so that's more of like a monopoly between like, us. But
I tried. Again, I'm not doing dances or anything like that on TikTok. But
Yeah.
I mean, I try to keep up with. I mean, because my motto is either adapt or die. So
Yeah.
I adapted, social media. Because if I didn't adapt, I have friends that don't even have Facebook, and I'm like, they're gonna get lost. They're gonna get left way behind.
yeah, exactly.
So I always came from the school of like either adapt or die. So,
Yeah, that's smart.
But with TikTok, I mean, I feel like it's a young person's
Yeah.
platform. But from
1,000%.
what I see through Instagram and TikTok, it really helps like small businesses like crazy.
Oh,
So
yeah,
it would hurt,
insane.
That's what
Oh
I
yeah.
say.
Well, they're
Just-
all the platforms are like adapting the method they're using of like you could just post and it doesn't matter who you are and it could blow up. That's why it's helping so many businesses and stuff. So that's kind of my opinion. Is all these other
Yeah,
social
I
media
mean,
pages want?
Yeah, again, I mean, you could say it till till the cows come home. Like it's a necessary evil.
Yeah.
it's-
Exactly.
I wish I could. I was talking with your dad. I wish I can go back and throw some unleaded. Fill it up with $3 and go buy a 6-pack of Budweiser and some Zima and go hang out at the park. But
Yeah.
things change. Just have a beeper and no cell phone. Now we got smartphones. But,
Yeah.
it's not like that anymore. Like
No, I know.
Just times do change, and they're changing rapidly.
No, I know. Sometimes I think I was born in the wrong time, man. I get like even running a social media page, like I'll delete Instagram for like a week sometimes. I'm like, I have too much of this right now. You know what I mean? Like I can't be on it constantly either. It's tough,
Yeah,
So I get it. Those seem like they were the
I got
days.
on a little bit of a run when my Mets were having a
They had a great season, man.
Yeah.
That was so like
the first couple of months they were kind of like we're like, what's going on? And
Yeah,
they just
I know.
turned it around.
Well, that's what was crazy about the story is they just like out of nowhere started
And
killing
I-
it
and I,
after Grimace.
Oh man! Oh, after Grimace, yeah, I felt like a little kid again. Like just like I was just. So I got a little vocal when it came to that on social media with the Mets and stuff. So I was having fun, But then after a while, like again, it's hard coming up with content every day.
Yeah,
It's gotta
exactly.
be-
Yeah. No, I know it is.
it's hard,
It's a
right?
daily grind. Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah. That's why I appreciate the content you're making, man. We our collab post we did had like a few million views. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I mean, I got some other ideas, and we could talk about it at dinner. And we're like, I mean,
Okay.
I feel that like a lot of people don't think this, but especially when it comes to Italians, like sticking together,
yeah,
some do and some don't.
Yeah.
Some of them don't. Most of them don't. They say they do, but then they don't.
yeah, that's true.
My philosophy's always been, I think there's an abundance for everybody.
Yeah,
Like, I don't know if I'm getting that cold or whatever, but I
You're
don't know if
good.
it's this limoncello, this cream limoncello that I'm having.
Yeah,
I
it's
never
like a-
had this cream limoncello. This is nice. It's almost kind of like ice cream in liquid form, but there's an abundance. Like there's an abundance for everybody. Some people get greedy. I just think there's an abundance for everybody. I think.
yeah. I
think
feel like
a lot
other
of-
cultures all get along and get together. I don't know, maybe not, but from what it looks like to me, they all like use each other, get along. You know what I mean? Like help each other out. But with Italians, it's like I don't know what it is, man.
I moved to LA in 2006. I'm not going to say who it was, but he was very animated, and he told me this. And I'm sitting in front of a cafe on Sunset Boulevard, and we're talking, and he's telling me a story, and I'm not going to act it out, but he goes, Moishe, oh, he's opening up a bagel store. He goes, and the Jews, they stick together, and Moishe is opening up a bagel store, and Abraham's going to open up a bagel store down the block. And Moishe says, how can I help you, Abraham?
Yeah.
And instead of thinking it's competition, they're only a block away. He's like, how can I help you? Then he goes, well, with the Italians, like, Tony's opening up a pizzeria. And I hear that Frankie's opening up a pizzeria down the block. How the fuck do I take him out of business?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's
And
true.
he said that to me, and I'm like, I never forgot that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy shit, like, years later. And I'm like, and I think back then.
That's so true. But where do you
They
think
try
that
to take
came
each other
about?
out.
Yeah.
I'm like, but it's like,
But
but I'm
what it-
starting to see a little bit. I don't know if it's of an ego thing, but I'm starting to see a lot of the Italian American influencers, collaborating a lot more. I don't know if it's for like, look at me, so I can get more followers, or are they genuinely doing collaborations because they genuinely are.
It's the look at me thing, man. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like I know people that
yeah,
like
that's what I see. But I'm like, oh, because you could see it when they actually do the content. It was like that doesn't look authentic or genuine. They're just doing like, who's outdoing who.
how you know it is based on like the follow. You know what I mean? There's people who post content who don't have 1 million followers. You know what I mean? But if you notice that those people don't get posted, it's because they're not. You know what I mean? Like they only use you when they need you. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
the second you're not doing something, or the second you fall off, or whatever, like that's why we're always working with people if they just start. You know, as long as they make good content and the audience enjoys it, I think that's how you tell. Like look at who they're working with and what they're. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. But it's the say one thing, do another.
Yeah.
You know.
Exactly.
And again, a lot of people say they want to expand and they want to do this and they want to do that, but then it just becomes an ego thing, and their heads get their heads blow up, and I could say it and over again, but egos kill careers.
Yeah.
Whatever you do.
Yeah, 1,000%. And that's what I always think, man. Like I just try to again like bring it back to my grandparents, and you know what I mean? Like I think about my grandfather sometime. Dude never had an ego in anything. You know what I mean? And that's like the inspiration for the brand, and that's where it's like I don't get that whole thing. Like I don't feel like that's an authentic Italian thing from Italy, that people had all these egos, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I guess there is the Maloic and things like that too. So I don't know. It had to stem from Italy, so maybe there is a little bit of that.
Yeah,
and it just
someone probably got wind. I don't know. Somebody got wind of me maybe coming out to Chicago and then gave me a fucking cold on the airplane or whatever. But
it's okay, man.
they gave me the malocchio. I was like, we got no one in the back. It's gonna do a little sputats. Then get this malocchio. But-
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, hopefully, man, you're welcome anytime on the podcast, anytime
thank
you're in.
you.
But
I mean, you guys are awesome. Thank you for having me. I see you
Yeah,
got
no
a little, like my dad would be impressed to see. It's like a little. Is that real marble or is it just like it looks like marble?
no, it's like paneling, but yeah, it just
like
looks.
marble. It looks like, yeah, it's marble.
Thanks, man. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I like the marble gold look. You know what I mean?
I saw
Keep
a
it
couple,
Italian.
because I lost my dad a year and a half ago.
Oh, sorry.
And he was a true artist. He was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he would always break my chops all the time about the acting and TV, film thing. And,
Mm-hmm.
but he was an artist in his own right. He was
Yeah.
a mason, bricklayer, did marble, tile. Um, I mean, it's not marble, but it screams marble.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were passing by a market. It's at Tony's.
Oh yeah.
The Tony's like market.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like the letters were like huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never seen like his name. Like his name was Antonio, but
Um,
I've never seen his name. Like that big. And I'm like, okay, well, he's sending me a message.
Yeah.
To see the marble, but I believe in that stuff.
No, I believe in it too, man. Our parents, grandparents, they always send messages, man. I agree. I have a crazy story. We see this number all the time, and I bet on a horse race, and we won like $7 grand on this horse race. My fiance
Really?
needed a car. Yeah, she needed a car real bad. Hers was breaking down. Like, it was a real bad situation. And then we always see this number, 743, 743. So I bet on a horse race, and we won. And we're like,
The last
That's
two
phenomenal.
jobs I had, the last two acting jobs,
mm-hmm.
back to back, within a year of each other, both characters. I mean, it sounds like a stereotype, but when and the crazy thing is, I played a like blue collar, like working guy.
Yeah.
Both Tony.
Really?
Yeah.
Just coincidentally, they.
Yeah.
Wow.
But like both like back to back. Like last year's job on a film, Tony.
Mm-hmm.
This thing I just did, I can't mention the show. This thing I just did for Netflix, this episode I did, Tony.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So
That's
I'm
awesome.
Like, yeah, and then my mother recently, she tells me that my dad said, I go, thanks for telling me now. I wish I would have known back then.
Yeah.
But again, they would always, bust my chops about, being an actor and get a real job and, all that stuff. I'm like, this is what I do on a daily basis is in the creative world.
Yeah.
And she goes, when he was sick, he had heart disease and he had dementia, but when he was sick, I said, I wish I would have known, you tell me this now, Ma? And she just told me this maybe a week ago. She goes,
Uh-huh.
he said to me, like, if this is what he wants to do, this is what he wants to do. He's really good at it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going, I wish I would have known
Yeah.
this before because my father wasn't like that. I mean, my father had an accent till the day he passed. Like he was in this country for 30 plus years and he's still hardcore broken English accent, my dad.
Yeah.
And
Love it.
he would never understand like why I was an actor and why I would loved it so much. So to even hear that
Yeah. Oh,
from my
man.
mom tell me that, I was like, I wish I would have known this before because I could have had a conversation with him about it. But like any movie premiere that I did, I brought him. He came to visit me in L.A. I took him around L.A. I had a convertible. I took him to the Beverly Hills Hotel. I had him meet a couple of celebrities. Like, so he was around it a little bit. So he started getting it a little bit.
Yeah.
But to hear, he wouldn't tell me like in person, but to hear that from my mom
Yeah.
when she told me that really touched me. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, then I guess he really, if that's what he wants to do,
Yeah.
that's what he wants to do. Like I would never like that didn't seem like it would come out of my dad. 'Cause
Yeah.
he was a very, very
Yeah,
blue
old school.
collar,
Mhm.
and he was incredible
Mm-hmm.
at what he did. Like I mean, he could lay out this floor in like tile and like I mean just like pristine. He did half of the brownstones in Greenwich Village in Manhattan.
Oh,
Like,
really?
I could walk down Bedford Street. Actually, where the exterior of the friend's house is,
Mhm.
right across the street, he did the whole block in brownstone,
Wow.
all by hand. Like no
Yeah.
like sketching it out the night before. How am I gonna do this? Like all by hand and all by just kind of like, it was incredible to watch. Back then, I really didn't get it because it was like, oh, I gotta go work with my father. I
Yeah.
gotta work with him. But as I got older, and now I could just walk down the streets of Manhattan and see his work. It's beautiful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
unbelievable.
His spirit's living on through that, through your work, through your creativity.
Yeah, to
That's
this day,
awesome,
I'm
man.
still trying to figure out a way on how to incorporate the type of work that he did.
Yeah.
Like to like even just do like a little snippet or a segment of like the work that he did in Manhattan. Because I I had people like when he passed, they would DM me. People I haven't seen or spoken to in a while that were his clients that he did work for, and they was like, oh, my condolences and that, man, your dad was a true craftsman. They used the word true craftsman. And
Yeah.
he was.
That's
It
awesome.
was unbelievable. So, I mean, I guess it goes to the next generation, but again, when people like shake my hand, my hands are so soft. Like I'm not
I get the
really,
same thing all
like,
the time.
I could screw in
Yeah.
a screw. I know what a Phillips head is and a flat screwdriver. I could do like little like handyman stuff, but I wasn't nearly what my dad was just like. I mean, he could just like go build
Yep.
a house over a weekend, or like he was just
Yeah.
just to see him get sick towards the end like that, and to again see him wither away like that was kind of sad.
Yeah, it's
Like,
tough.
you know, you look, a tough Italian, dad from Italy, like with, like rope and scaffolding and stuff like that, and to see him like weak like that, and just sad,
Yeah,
you know.
I know. But the creativity you have, man, like even, I love how when COVID happened, you wrote that book.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like that's huge.
Yes.
Like,
I didn't know that I was coming. I knew I was going to come see you guys, but I brought a couple of copies. I have them back at the hotel. But
Mhm.
yeah, even with that, I try to just keep current.
yeah,
And like always have something in the sales funnel.
yeah,
Even when I was in the corporate world, the more you put into the sales funnel, you put in 10, one or two is going to come out, right?
Yeah,
Just like
that's
with
smart.
auditions, you go on 100 auditions, you're going to book 2. So I always felt it was a numbers game with anything that you do.
yeah,
And that wasn't going to stop me. I know everything shut down. I was like, oh, here's a great time to finish the book.
yeah,
And again, I was just telling Mike Gentili, I didn't know anything about writing a children's book,
yeah,
but I learned throughout, which they don't teach in school, and I wish they did, for the younger generation. You don't have to know how to do something. Like, because if someone says, well, I want to go do this, and someone says, how are you going to do that? You don't know how to do it. And then you just stop and be like, oh, okay, I guess, you know what? I don't know how to do it, so I'm not going to do it. But if
Yeah.
you believe it wholeheartedly in your heart that you're going to do it, you don't need to know how to do it, but life will work itself out.
yeah,
It's like you become what you think about, or whatever the mind, believes you can conceive. Like that's all like real stuff that's been, passed on for, over 100 years. They don't
Exactly.
teach that in school.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I mean, again, my friends, family, they're like, what? You want to be an actor? What? That's crazy. You're nuts. You're crazy. You're crazy. You're crazy. You're nuts. Oh, you're going to make a movie about the neighborhood? You're crazy. That's never going to happen. This and that.
Yeah.
And then years later, I'll run into them and they'll be like, oh, you were serious about that?
Yeah,
Oh, no,
that's
I
the
was
craziest
joking
part.
around. I was like, I'm passing my time. I'm going to waste my time.
that's the crazy part, man. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Between the book and just producing, acting, like, I don't know, you're creative, man. Your creativity's out there. The work's living on, and the culture's living on through your work.
Exactly
And
it. You know what? The work lives on. Because you know what? I say this. I said, put out good work. Like I never got involved with this industry because of the money. And again, any entertainer or actor will tell you, if you're in it for the money, go do something else. Because
Wow.
it's not. Because for me, it wasn't. It was just the thrill of just creating something from nothing or becoming, and just bringing something to life was just thrilling for me as a creative. And I've said this a few times to friends, and I may have said it a few times on podcasts, and it may sound redundant, but I remember watching the Jackie Gleason biopic.
Okay.
And Brad Garrett played Jackie Gleason. It was a CBS movie, and I'll never forget. In the beginning of the movie, Jackie Gleason, the character, Brad Garrett's playing Jackie Gleason. He's in the audience, and I'll never forget. The guy on the stage, they were at a vaudeville show, and the guy on the stage was doing I don't know, some crazy comedic, physical comedy.
Mhm.
And I'll never forget, Jackie Gleason as a kid was like looking around, and he just saw all the people like laughing and reacting to the person on the stage. That's what thrilled Jackie Gleason.
Okay.
He loved the reaction that the person on stage had on the audience.
Mhm.
He's like, wow, that person has that effect on the audience, and it works the same thing in the entertainment business. If you're inspiring or moving someone, whether it be happy, sad, glad, whatever it is, if it brings something out in you and makes you feel something,
Yeah.
then you did your job.
Yeah.
Because again, if it's for the money, I gave up, corporate jobs, where the money was there, and I just said, you know what, it was just time to move on, and I just,
Yeah.
Next thing you know, I'm like,
Yeah. You can't make decisions
bunking
based
with
on.
people in Los Angeles. I was,
That's
and
fine.
I never had a roommate. I was like having roommate. I was like, roommate.
Yeah.
bunking with people. I'm like, no, yeah, but you had this great job in corporate America. I'm like, yeah, but it was time to move on.
Yeah. I always look at it like you can't take it with you when you die, man. So you got to just do something you love, and that's it. So,
Yes, always do something you love, and do it with passion, and
and the rest works itself out.
It does. It does. I know it sounds cliche, but if you do something with love and passion, and it comes from a real place, you're not gonna lose.
Yeah, 1,000%. And Gino, too, just to end it off, is there any projects you want to shout out, or that you have coming up you want to talk about?
Well, I just read this great book, and I read this great book, and I mentioned it earlier. It's called Mob Adjacent by the Gentili brothers, Mike and Jeff, which is very authentic and very different and real. It takes place in Chicago, and I know, there's been stuff said and done about Chicago, but it's a real great book.
Yeah.
That highly recommended.
Yeah. Has there been a lot of Chicago?
Huh?
I feel like New York, there's like most of the content. I know Capone, obviously, there was like Chicago, but I'm saying like as far as film and stuff, has there been a lot of like representation for Chicago, you think? Or
Well, the Bear is hot right now. in
Yeah, the
Chicago,
Bear's
right?
huge.
So
Yeah.
I think it's time for Chicago to make another little jump into the besides the Bear, and I can't think of
So I'm saying, just from like, because we live here, obviously, like we live it. I don't know. I feel like there's not that much about Chicago,
No.
Like I want to see it more in film and entertainment and stuff, because there's so much history and so much like.
absolutely. As much as I love New York, I mean, I think Chicago's a great city, and I think there's a lot of beautiful stories in Chicago that should be told. And they should be told from an authentic and real place, and that book is definitely authentic and real. It came from a real place.
Yeah,
you know?
1,000%. Okay. Well, thanks, Gino, for coming on, man. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
Thank you
Welcome
so
to
much.
Chicago
Yeah,
anytime, man.
Thank you so much for having me. I wish I was feeling a little bit better.
Yeah, no worries.
I hope I didn't I didn't sound too raspy or whatever. But,
No, you're
but
fine, man. Don't worry.
Your dad hooked me up with a little limoncello cream. That helped out a lot. So.
Yeah. We'll get something more, man. So, but thanks
Absolutely.
again. Really appreciate it, man. It was nice sitting down with you, and yeah, thank you
Thank
guys
you.
for
Thank
watching.
you. Thank you.
Subscribe. Catch you on the next one.